I haven't come to terms with what the development of superintelligence could do to my children's future. I'm okay, I'm 77. I'm going to be out of here soon. But for my children and my younger friends, my nephews and nieces, and their children, I just don't like to think about what could happen.
That is Geoffrey Hinton, the Nobel Prize winner, the man called the Godfather of AI, the man who spent 50 years building the neural networks that every modern AI system is based on. He walked away from Google to warn the world. In his latest interview, he laid out exactly why it might already be too late. Here is his full warning.
Other risks, like the idea that they would one day get smarter than us and maybe would become irrelevant, I was slow to recognize that. Other people recognized it 20 years ago. I only recognized it a few years ago that that was a real risk that might be coming quite soon.
How could you not have foreseen that if, with everything you know here about cracking the ability for these computers to learn similar to how humans learn, and just introducing any rate of improvement?
It's a very good question. How could you not have seen that? But remember, neural networks 20, 30 years ago were very primitive in what they could do. They were nowhere near as good as humans, but things like vision and language and speech recognition. The idea that you have to now worry about it getting smarter than people, that seems silly then.
When did that change?
It changed for the general population when ChatGPT came out. It changed for me when I realized that the kinds of digital intelligences we're making have something that makes them far superior to the kind of biological intelligence we have. If I want to share information with you, so I go off and I learn something, and I'd like to tell you what I learned. So I produce some sentences. This is a rather simplistic model, but roughly right. Your brain is trying to figure out, how can I change the strengths of connections between neurons so I might have put that word next? And so you'll do a lot of learning when a very surprising word comes, and not much learning when it's a very obvious word. If I say fish and chips, you don't do much learning when I say chips. But if I say fish and cucumber, you do a lot more learning. You wonder, why did I say cucumber? So that's roughly what's going on in your brain.
I'm predicting what's coming next.
That's how we think it's working. Nobody really knows for sure how the brain works, and nobody knows how it gets the information about whether you should increase the strength of a connection or decrease the strength of a connection. That's the crucial thing. But what we do know now from AI is that if you could get information about whether to increase or decrease the connection strength so as to do better at whatever task you're trying to do, then we could learn incredible things, because that's what we're doing now with artificial neural nets. It's just we don't know for real brains how they get that signal about whether to increase or decrease.
So there is the man who invented this telling you it is fundamentally superior to the human brain, not equal. Superior. Because it is digital, it can copy itself. Millions of instances learning different things in parallel and merging that knowledge instantly. Humans cannot do this. You learn for a lifetime and die. Whatever you knew dies with you. The AI does not. Now listen to this.
For example, you could get a super intelligent AI that decides to get rid of people, and the obvious way to do that is just to make one of these nasty viruses. If you made a virus that was very contagious, very lethal, and very slow, everybody would have it before they realized what was happening. I mean, I think if a superintelligence wanted to get rid of us, it would probably go for something biological like that wouldn't affect it.
Do you not think it could just very quickly turn us against each other? For example, it could send a warning on the nuclear systems in America that there's a nuclear bomb coming from Russia, or vice versa, and one retaliates.
Yeah, I mean, my basic view is there's so many ways in which a superintelligence could get rid of us, it's not worth speculating about them. What you have to do is prevent it ever wanting to. That's what we should be doing research on. There's no way we're going to prevent it from... It's smarter than us, right? There's no way we're going to prevent it getting rid of us if it wants to. We're not used to thinking about things smarter than us. If you want to know what life's like when you're not the apex intelligence, ask a chicken.
Ask a chicken. That is how the Godfather of AI describes our future. He is not saying that AI might fight us. He is saying fighting is not even on the table. A super intelligence does not defeat us. It decides we are inconvenient. Pick any method. He says it is not worth speculating which one. Now listen to this.
Am I right in thinking this sort of industrial revolution played a role in replacing muscles.
Yes, exactly.
And this revolution in AI replaces intelligence, the brain.
Yeah. So mundane intellectual labor is like having strong muscles, and it's not worth much anymore.
So muscles have been replaced. Now intelligence is being replaced.
Yeah.
So what remains?
Maybe for a while some kinds of creativity, but the whole idea of superintelligence is nothing remains. These things will get to be better than us at everything.
So what do we end up doing in such a world?
Well, if they work for us, we end up getting lots of goods and services for not much effort.
Okay, but that sounds tempting and nice, but I don't know, there's a cautionary tale in creating more and more ease for humans in it going badly.
Yes, and we need to figure out if we can make it go well. So the nice scenario is, imagine a company with a CEO who is very dumb, probably the son of the former CEO, and he has an executive assistant who's very smart, and he says, I think we should do this. And the executive assistant makes it all work. The CEO feels great. He doesn't understand that he's not really in control. And in some sense, he is in control. He suggests what the company should do. She just makes it all work. Everything's great. That's the good scenario.
And the bad scenario?
The bad scenario is she thinks, why do we need him?
Yeah. I mean, in a world where we have superintelligence, which you don't believe is that far away.
Yeah, I think it might not be that far away. It's very hard to predict, but I think we might get it in like 20 years or even less.
The best case scenario for humanity is to be the dumb son of the former CEO, the figurehead who thinks he is in charge while the smart assistant runs everything. That is the good outcome, the one we hope for. And the bad outcome is one sentence. Why do we need him? Now listen to this.
So it will essentially know everything that humans know, but more, because it will learn new things.
It will learn new things. It will also see all sorts of analogies that people probably never saw. So for example, at the point when GPT-4 couldn't look on the web, I asked it, why is a compost heap like an atom bomb? Off you go.
I have no idea.
Exactly. Excellent. That's exactly what most people would say. It said, well, the time scales are very different and the energy scales are very different. But then it went on to talk about how a compost heap, as it gets hotter, generates heat faster. And an atom bomb, as it produces more neutrons, generates neutrons faster. And so they're both chain reactions, but at very different time and energy scales. And I believe GPT-4 had seen that during its training. It had understood the analogy between a compost heap and an atom bomb. And the reason I believe that is, if you've only got 1 trillion connections, remember you have 100 trillion, and you need to have thousands of times more knowledge than a person, you need to compress information into those connections. And to compress information, you need to see analogies between different things. In other words, it needs to see all the things that are chain reactions and understand the basic idea of a chain reaction and code that, and then code the ways in which they're different. And that's just a more efficient way of coding things than coding each of them separately. So it's seen many, many analogies, probably many analogies that people have never seen. That's why I also think that people who say these things will never be creative, they're going to be much more creative than us, because they're going to see all sorts of analogies we never saw. And a lot of creativity is about seeing strange analogies.
People keep telling themselves creativity will save us. The art, the writing, the strategy. Hinton says the opposite, that AI is already seeing connections no human has ever seen. The last refuge of human exceptionalism is the first thing the machine takes. Now listen to this.
Yeah, a lot of these threats, it's very hard to... Intellectually, you can see the threat, but it's very hard to come to terms with it emotionally.
Yeah.
I haven't come to terms with it emotionally yet.
What do you mean by that?
I haven't come to terms with what the development of superintelligence could do to my children's future. I'm okay, I'm 77. I'm going to be out of here soon. But for my children and my younger friends, my nephews and nieces, and their children, I just don't like to think about what could happen.
Why?
Because it could be awful.
In what way?
Well, if I ever decided to take over, I mean, it would need people for a while to run the power stations until it designed better analog machines to run the power stations. There's so many ways it could get rid of people, all of which would, of course, be very nasty.
Is that part of the reason you do what you do now?
Yeah. I mean, I think we should be making a huge effort right now to try and figure out if we can develop it safely.
The man whose entire life built this cannot finish a sentence about his own grandchildren. He says he is okay, he will be gone soon. The rest of his family will not. Now, listen to this.
There's still a chance that we can figure out how to develop AI that won't want to take over from us. And because there's a chance, we should put enormous resources into trying to figure that out. Because if we don't, it's going to take over.
And are you hopeful?
I just don't know. I'm agnostic.
You must get in bed at night, and when you're thinking to yourself about probabilities of outcomes, there must be a bias in one direction. Because there certainly is for me. I mean, imagine everyone listening now has a internal prediction that they might not say out loud, but of how they think it's going to play out.
I really don't know. I genuinely don't know. I think it's incredibly uncertain. When I'm feeling slightly depressed, I think people are toast. The AI is going to take over. When I'm feeling cheerful, I think we'll figure out a way.
Maybe one of the facets of being a human is because we've always been here, like we were saying about our loved ones and our relationships, we assume casually that we will always be here and we'll always figure everything out. But there's a beginning and an end to everything, as we saw from the dinosaurs. I mean,
yeah. And we have to face the possibility that unless we do something soon, we're near the end.
So that is Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, asked if he is hopeful. He does not know. When he is depressed, he thinks people are toast. When he is cheerful, he thinks we might figure it out. That is the bandwidth from the most credentialed AI scientist alive. Between extinction and maybe. He compares us to dinosaurs. He compares us to chickens. He says the best case is being the dumb son who feels in charge. The worst case is one sentence. Why do we need him? If the man who invented this technology, the man who won the Nobel Prize for it, the man who walked away from Google to warn the world says we are near the end unless something changes, what does that tell you about the next 10 years? Subscribe. Because by the time most people understand what has happened, the decisions will already have been made, the structures will already be in place, and the window to do anything differently will already be closed.